Starting off a little bit different this week. We're going to start off, we've been doing a story for kiddos, and they've been in here the last few weeks, and this week they're going to get to go play next door. Are you guys excited? Yeah. So we're going to start off with a story. It's one of my special books from my home that I love, and it's about feelings. Because if anybody knows me, they know that my emotions are very important to me. I feel things in really big waves. So this book is called How Do I Feel? A Little Guide to My Emotions. You guys ready? Yep, I'm going to show you the pages, I promise. Here are some of the feelings you might have. pride, anger, sadness, happiness. Why do you do what you do? Why did I do that? I don't know. We sometimes do things without knowing why. We jump up and down when we see our friends. Do you do that when you see your friends? This little guy here saying, yippee! We stamp our feet when we're angry. Do you ever stamp your feet when you get angry? Yeah. We hide our faces when we feel shy. We want to show our drawings to everyone. See, this little emotion is saying, look, look, look. See his little drawing? We do these things because feelings happen in our bodies. You've got all these feelings. There are all sorts of feelings. Here are some of them. I'm going to remind you of these feelings again. Happiness, sadness, pride, and anger. When you have a feeling, this is what happens inside your body. You notice or think about something you like. Your body sends a message to your brain about what it has noticed. Where's our brains at? In our head, right? Your brain decides if the thing you have noticed is good or bad. If it decides the thing is good, your brain sends happy signals to your body. See the happy face? Sometimes these signals make you want to jump up and down. If your brain decides the thing is bad, what is that? Hudson, what's that? Is that a snake? Then it sends different signals. These signals might make you feel frightened or angry. When you do something and you don't know why, ask yourself, which emotion am I feeling? What are you feeling today, Ellie? You're happy? What about you, Hudson? What are you feeling today? You're the star. Are you feeling proud? What are you feeling, Shug? The star too? How about you, Lynn? Happy. Woohoo! All right, guys. So I think Lynn is going to take you guys next door, and you guys are going to continue to talk about feelings and hang out and play a little bit. How's that sound? Does that sound good? Oh, I love you. Oh, I love you guys. Go help Lynn. Go get your stuff. All right, you guys. As kiddos head next door. Or are you taking a drink? Okay. We're going to start off today with a song. And it's a song I'm not going to sing and play at this time. We're just going to share it with you. It's a song that has just meant a lot to me this week. And so I invite you to just listen to it. I invite you to watch the words. They're going to be on the screen. And just let it sit with your heart. And then Christy's going to come up and share.
Deep into did I go and I take all my life on down. I made my bed, sleep at you, still I can't seem to sit down. And the moment it feels better, the sun sets below. And tell myself, get it together, I should be okay by now. I should be okay by now. I should be okay by now. The wind you eat, don't you drive those 'Cause I'm coming around right beside my pride. Someday soon we'll be dancing on that grave. And as for you, no need to be brave. And all the noise, please stop listening. Just these words I want you to hear. You have permission to be broken. You have permission to be hurting on the side. You call me out, I don't know your name. My own voice lies believing I love you. They don't make me. But in a moment, it felt better. I won't let the ground. Still tell myself, pull it together. I'm breathing better now. I'm breathing better now. He's breathing better now. When you wink, don't you dry those eyes. 'Cause I'm coming around right beside our pride. Someday soon we'll be getting on that grave. And as for you, no need to be brave. And all the noise, please stop listening. Just these words I want you to hear. Broken, you have permission to be broken. You have permission to be.
Holly sent me that song this morning, and I think those words are just really powerful. This idea that you have permission to be broken. Sometimes in faith spaces, we talk about this a lot, but sometimes we feel like that's the last thing we're allowed to be, that it's not safe to be broken, or it's not safe to be hurting, it's not safe to be weak. We've got to portray that we've got it all together. So we're going to conclude, kind of round the corner on our prolonged Psalms 119 look. I missed being with you guys last week. It was not fun being sick again. And so I'm really grateful for Holly jumping in and filling in. Thank you so much. We're going to look at the very last verse of Psalm 119 tonight. And this very last verse reads like this. It says, I have wandered away like a lost sheep. Come and find me, for I have not forgotten your commands. So before David became king of Israel, what was David? What was his occupation? He was a shepherd. And so David uses the imagery a lot of shepherds and sheep, and that imagery is kind of carried throughout Scripture as this analogy that kind of compares us as followers of Jesus to sheep. right? And if you notice, David says, I've wandered away like a lost sheep. Come and find me. Sound familiar? Because Jesus kind of picks that motif up but turns it around backwards in his ministry, and we're going to talk about that here in a minute. But I thought this the last couple weeks as I was kind of pondering this verse, because there's just something really beautiful in that verse. Something really beautiful that says, I acknowledge that something in me isn't okay. I acknowledge that I have wondered. I've acknowledged that I'm struggling. I acknowledge that maybe I'm broken or I'm hurting or I'm not in the right place. I'm not in my best space right now. And so after all of this, right, 176 verses that David proclaims, he ends on this note that just kind of says, I'm not okay, and I need you to come and help me, because I haven't forgotten who you are or what you say or what you've promised or that you are faithful. And there's just something really beautiful and really intimate about that kind of final declaration that leaves things in this unresolved way, right? Because I don't know about you, ever watch Hallmark movies? Like, everything's going to be tied up nice and neat in a pretty little bow, right? Like, we don't like cliffhangers. We don't like it when things aren't resolved. Bob and Lynn and I have been binge watching at night Young Sheldon, which was fantastically funny. And we went to start it the other day for our evening show, and we realized we'd accidentally watched all the episodes, and we didn't know it. And it had left it on a cliffhanger, and Lynn is incredibly stressed out that there's no resolution and this show doesn't come back until October. I tried to explain how it was when I was a kid, but that was terrible. What would you do if you missed a show? Well, your friends told you about it the next day. But nonetheless, there's something really beautiful about this just unresolved, hanging declaration of David that says, I'm struggling. I need you to come and find me. And he says, I'm struggling like a lost sheep. David was very familiar with sheep, right? He spent a lot of time in the field. I think you could probably argue that for the beginning part of his life, the younger part of his life before becoming a king, he probably spent more time with sheep than he did with people, because he was out trying to make sure that he protected his sheep, he watched over his sheep, he took care of them. So I feel like when David says, I'm like a sheep who's wandered away, he knows what he's saying in that space. So I don't know a lot about sheep. So I went on a quest to find out about sheep this week, the last few weeks. So I'm going to tell you 6 things that I've learned about sheep. And the reason that each of these are important is because I think David knew these different pieces of what it's like to take care of a sheep when he's saying to God, I know that I've wandered away like a sheep. He could have compared himself to anything, but I need you to come and find me. So I want to show you these. The first one is this. The first one is that sheep have an incredibly strong herding instinct. They are social creatures. They don't like to go out on their own very often. Nope, not this one. So we're gonna look at a video, and it should say herding. There we go. Okay, so I just want you to watch this. This was taken by a drone in Scotland, and it's they just know to follow one another. Nobody's going off on their own. Got the dogs kind of herding them behind. But this tendency of sheep is to be communal, to be community-oriented. They are together. They do life together. They know that there's safety in numbers. And so when one of them starts to move, typically all of them start to move. And they don't necessarily even need to know where they're going. They just know that, okay, well, we're going to this field now. And just, there's not a lot of direction that's being given in that space. They're really kind of organizing themselves and moving themselves from one field to the next because they're following one another. Very similarly, we were created to be connected to community, right? We were designed by a relational God for relationships. We need people. We need a herd. We need a group of people that we know that when we have to move from one season to another, we've got support. We're not doing things alone. We're not by ourselves. And there's something so incredibly beautiful about that and about that characteristic of these animals. The next one is this, that their defense mechanism when they're spooked is to flee. So they start to run, which then often evokes this response. So check this guy out. He got spooked, and he went to flee, and he ran into a bit of a problem.
Oh, dear. That's funny.
So he gets himself stuck in the swing. Anybody relate to this sheep? Like, I am getting out of here. I do not want to be a part of this. And somehow we like manage to run right into this thing that kind of swings us around and around. But sheep have this instinct, right? Like something spooks them, they're going to try to run. We are the same way in so many respects. I think David wasn't by accident comparing himself to a sheep in that respect, because he knew our human nature, that when we get challenged, when things get hard, when somebody speaks truth that maybe we're not fully ready to wrestle with just yet, it's a lot easier to flee and put some distance between us and that thing that's challenging us or pushing us or making us feel scared. But so often we run without looking where we're going. We run out of instinct, and we find ourselves trapped in situations like that poor sheep in the swing. But there's something, again, about having a group of people who say, okay, I see you fleeing, but guess what? Out of love, out of dedication, out of commitment to you, I'm coming with you. You're not fleeing by yourself. Like, you want to flee to the coffee shop? You want to flee to go get ice cream? Like, you can flee for today, but tomorrow I'm going to come and check on you. There's something about that relational community nature. Here's the next thing I learned about sheep. This is interesting. Sheep feel emotions. And much like Holly's book that she read with the kids tonight about these different big feelings that we have, animal scientists have documented that sheep can feel different emotions. Scientists have discovered that sheep can feel stress, they can feel panic, they can also feel happiness, they can feel sadness, they can feel fear. And so there's something about that emotional response, right? I've said it here many, many, many times before. I think our emotions are one of God's greatest gifts. And I think way too often in the church, we are taught to apologize for our emotions. We are taught to hide our emotions. We're taught to downplay our emotions or not trust our emotions. And one of the illustrations that I use a lot, I wrote about it in my book, was this idea that our emotions are kind of like a magnet, right? And if God's the other side of that magnet, any emotion that we feel has the capacity to draw us into God. When I am angry, I can be angry and frustrated and cry out to God in anger and frustration. When I'm happy, I can cry out to God. When I am sad, when I am scared, all of those things can pull me into the heart of God. But what also happens with magnets, if you flip them around and you try to push them into each other, what happens with them? Do they connect? No, they push away. You're exactly right. So when we have these emotional responses, we've got two choices, right? Let those pull us in and connect us to something bigger, to God, to community, to relationships, to people, or to resist that natural pull and kind of flip that pull on its edge and say, nope, I can handle this all by myself. I don't need anybody. And then we kind of live in that place of pride, that star emotion that Hudson was feeling tonight. Here's the next one. Sheep are not likely to survive on their own. Sheep really struggle. And so when a sheep decides to run away, and if it manages to get away from the herd and nobody is, coming with it, if the shepherd doesn't notice it is gone, if the dogs that are helping to care for the flock manage to not see that one get away, the likelihood that that little sheep is going to survive on his own in the wild are very, very small. And here's part of the reason why. When sheep get tired, when they fall, when they get exhausted, they often lay down, and they can become what's called cast. So cast sheep, when they fall down and they're stuck on their backs, they literally cannot get back up again by themselves. So I want you to see this video. So this is a little sheep that's been cast. He's been stuck in the snow.
Suicide watch. This is what happens when they get all roly-poly. Stabilizer, better stand up.
But as soon as he gets some help, right, he can get back up again. There's something very holy about that illustration right there. There's something really beautiful about this fact that he was stuck and had just kind of given up. There was nothing that this little guy could do. But all it took was for the shepherd to come over and grab that one leg and flip him over, and then to just stay there with him for a second while he kind of got his bearings and he got steadied. And then he was ready to go back again. He could return back to the herd. He could get back to that community life and thriving and feeling all the emotions with his little sheep buddies. There's something so beautiful, though, about this idea that when a sheep is separated on their own, they are weak and they are vulnerable. I think that is the same thing for us as people. Often we are most vulnerable to mental health struggles. We are most vulnerable to believing lies and things that aren't necessarily true when we are separated from people who speak truth into us, separated from people who encourage us and love on us. Anybody got voices in your life that speak love and hope and goodness into you? Anybody got voices in your life that drain you, that tell you everything that's wrong in the world, that are pessimistic and every plan is going to fail? We've got this choice that we make every day, right? Whose voice are we going to listen to? Are we going to recognize? And are we going to respond to? So if Chris and Scott can pull up this next video, I think it requires a little bit of finagling. I want to show you this video. It's about 1.5 minutes long, but this is just a really powerful exercise. This was done with a group of biologists. And so this is, before you hit play, let me kind of explain it. So this is a group of biologists, and they went to this sheep herd, okay? And they had different people come and yell at the sheep. And I want you to notice their response. And then at the very end, the shepherd who's taking care of the sheep flock comes and yells at the sheep. And I want you to notice the difference between those responses. So let's watch this together for just a minute.
One more time.
Oh, one is.
I don't know this guy. It's not a voice that they recognize.
Louder!
Look at them, look at them.
That's amazing.
Isn't that amazing?
They are coming. Oh my God. Woo! Oh my God. I can't believe it. Oh my God. This is right voice. Oh my God. This is amazing. One more.
Yeah, Eunice made him go away.
Oh my God.
Was that cool or what?
Oh my God.
You will never have the same again.
Oh my God.
Like, oh yeah, we're all together.
I can't believe the way they were coming.
They all remember and they all follow. So I learned in my sheep research. that sheep have been shown to recognize human voices and faces for up to 2 years. And it's just kind of this beautiful idea that when they have trusted someone and they have let someone lead them, that even if that person leaves for a while, but then comes back, that it has been scientifically shown through these different experiments that sheep can respond more so to those places that feel safe, those voices that they recognize. And that's something that I think David understood all of those principles because of his experience as a shepherd. So when he says and he proclaims in this final verse, I have wandered away like a sheep, he knows that he has wandered away from support. He's wandered away from some responsibility and some accountability, probably. Knowing David's life the way that we do when we read other books of scripture, we know that there was some seasons where David really kind of pushed people away for a while. But David says, like a sheep who has wandered away, come and find me, because he knows that he would recognize the voice of God, that he would recognize the touch of God, that he would recognize the face of God, and that like a cast sheep who's just kind of stuck in this season, I need you to come and help set me right. I need you to come and help me get out of this funk, this place, this spot that I've gotten myself stuck in. Jesus comes and tells a very similar story, but he kind of flips it around when he tells the parable of the lost sheep. And he says, even if only one of you leaves, I will leave the 99 to find the one. This exact same idea and principle where David is crying out, almost an invitation of like a game of holy hide and seek, like, God, I know I've wandered away, but I want you to come and find me. I need you to come and pursue me. Jesus says, I will recklessly pursue you. I will leave all of the others to find the one that is lost, the one that is cast, the one that is stuck in the swing and swinging around. I'm going to come and find you and help you in your individual situation and help you work yourself out of that situation. I want you to know that the gift of friendships and relationships, I think, are among God's greatest gifts, because God uses people in our lives constantly to encourage us, to remind us, to strengthen us, to make us better, to call us out. And when we separate ourselves from people that love us and have our best interest at heart, things can spiral really quickly. Anybody experienced that before? But when we allow people in, there's a lot of beauty and there's a lot of healing that can happen in that space. I'm going to invite my friend Holly to come up and hang out with me. You want to grab that microphone? So, Holly and I were talking the last couple of days. Yesterday marked a 10-year anniversary for you of a day that I feel like you relate to that cry of David, of kind of like, I have wandered away, I need you to come and find me, because I need to be reminded that there's a reason to still believe and to still hope. So I don't want to share your story for you, but I want to invite you to speak into this space, because I think your story and this anniversary that we have been kind of honoring this weekend in our life lines up really well with this principle in this verse.
Probably gonna cry. You all are used
Not
to that
probably.
one now. So I live with mental illness. I think I have for a very, very, very long time. In a season of my life where there had been a lot of needed healing from trauma, but healing was not happening. Actively living with the symptoms of depression, with anxiety, with PTSD. I found myself at a place where I didn't trust people. And I didn't know how to invest in the kind of relationships where it was like, hey, I'm not okay and I need some help. And so I spent a lot of time pushing people away and keeping people at arm's length. And so I lived in a very isolated space. 10 years ago, that isolation, that trauma, that chemical imbalances led to an almost successful suicide attempt. And I don't want to go into the story because I'm very aware of triggers and I want to be very sensitive to that. But ultimately, I was at my lowest low that day. And it's kind of a crazy story how, I believe that there's no reason to explain that other than God, that I'm still here today. But the thing is, I had been running away from God for so long, and I had been so afraid I had not named anything that I was dealing with because I had been taught and I had experienced that those things were shameful and those things were sinful. The ironic thing is that the way that God really turned things around for me was not that there was like some big booming voice in the clouds. It wasn't that there was like scripture that opened up on my lap. It wasn't some of those stories that you hear about that you're kind of like, that's cool that that happened, but like, for me, it was a connection to friendship, a connection to family. And the next day that followed that, I walked into a room of a bunch of women that were meeting together for this Bible study thing that I don't honestly even know why I was there. And I met her. I can tell you that I was not healed on that day from mental illness. I can tell you that trauma did not just go away, that those things weren't just magically better for me. Those are things I still live with every single day. And it's something that I think from the platform it's really important to vocalize and to talk about, because mental illness is an illness. It's a illness of the mind, just like illness is to our body. And trauma lives in our body just like an illness does, and it is something that resurfaces. It's something that is re-triggered, and it impacts so much of us. That season of my life led me to a very slow journey of healing with God. But I think that, and I say most importantly because I don't think I would be as close to God as I am now had it not been for the relationship with people that He brought me into life with. And so it's been a really crazy 10 years of our friendship. It's been a really crazy 10 years of my journey of healing, my journey of learning to love myself, which has led to a place of learning to love other people and learning to love people through really hard, messy situations. And so just like the cycle of our friendship, I'm really grateful for the space of TCG where I feel like the love that we have for each other, the love that our families have for each other has just been allowed to like get to grow in a lot of beautiful people. And so I just want to name that if you are someone who struggles with mental illness, you are not alone. Even in your darkest darknesses, even in your lowest lows, you are someone who has trauma history that is relived and comes back as to resurfaces, that you are not alone. And we strive really hard to make this be a safe space.
You know, as we study Psalms all year long this year, I think one of the things that if you're really paying attention that you can't argue with is the fact that David struggled with mental illness. You know, he struggled with anxiety and he struggled with depression, and I think people could argue that he may have been bipolar, but like he struggled in those spaces. And it is so critically important that we normalize those struggles in these spaces, but it's also really important that we pay attention to the words of Psalms. And this is why I wanted to do this study this year, is because there's something just so honest and raw and authentic about the way that David prays, about the way that David talks to God, about the way that David becomes more and more self-aware as the Psalms go on. And so when we get to this final verse where he kind of declares this, I've wandered away like a sheep and I need you to come and find me. There is a degree of self-awareness in that space that says, I know that I'm not okay. And I think that one of the beautiful things that God does that we don't always recognize as God, and that's why this conversation I think is really important tonight, is that sometimes we are praying, I feel like I'm all alone, God. I need you to do something. I need you to do a miracle, right? Like I need you to fix this problem or fix that person, or I need you to take away this addiction, or I need you to do this and provide this. And instead of like some big amazing thing happening, our phone rings and a friend says, hey, you were on my heart. I was just calling to check on you. And then we're like, man, why is God not answering this thing that I'm asking for? And so often when we cry out to God for wisdom, for understanding, for strength, he answers by working through the people that he has put in our lives, which is why it is so important that for our survival and for our thriving, for our health and for our healing, that we find ourselves a group of people that we can trust, that we can love, that we can do life with, that we can stay connected to. And talk for just a minute, Holly, just about the importance for you of relationships in general in your healing journey, because there's a lot from that day to today and the 10 years in between. I think one of the greatest things I've seen you grow in is your relational capacity and your willingness to engage in relationships.
I think that in
No, I gave you a hard one. I'm sorry.
I think that there is no greater pain to happen to us in our lives than the pain that other people inflict on us. I think that there is something incredibly hard to heal from those spaces. The reverse of that is I think that there is nothing more beautiful than healing that comes through people who are willing to be present. People who are willing to say, like, I'm not going to fix you, I'm just going to be with you. Like, I'm not going to say that, I'm not going to judge you, I'm not going to call you out, but I'm going to say, let's get you out of your dark house and go to coffee. Let me put, you won't answer the door, then there's chocolate on your doorstep, and I'm going to be just a phone call away. Like, I think for so many in that season for me of learning to trust and starting to heal came from so much awareness and attention from people that are just willing to be in my darkness. There's a really cute video by Brene Brown, and in essence it talks about the difference between empathy and compassion, or sympathy. And like sympathy is like, it's this cute little like cartoon bear or something like that, and he crawls down into this hole and he's feeling those feelings, like super depressed. And like sympathy is from the top, saying like, hey, you good down there, like checking on you, like, but it's from the space of like someone who's up in the blue sky and who's just looking down and is just kind of like, I see you, I'm just stopping by. Empathy is like this little bunny rabbit or something. I don't know why I think it's cute that they're animals, but and he like crawls down the ladder and he gets in the hole with that person and he just sits with them. And it's not this like, I have to have a degree to know how to fix you, I have to know the right answers. It's not this, I have to be okay to be in your space with you. It's this like, I care about you so much that I'm gonna just share this feeling with you. Like, I'm just gonna sit there. And I think for me, the experience of that, as I've become a healthier human, as I've stepped into a lot of places, it has become this huge passion in me to turn that around and to have the capacity to do that with other people. I'm very, very relational. My husband back there is like super introverted, and so he like comes home and is like, I just want to sit and watch TV, and I'm like, but I want to go hang out with people. Like, that has become who I am. But so much of that comes from this place that I believe there is so much power in community. I believe there is so much power in healing that happens in friendships. I believe, and this is really the core of family connection. I think it's the core of outreach. It's the core of everything we do. That I'm so grateful for TCG for, because it's this belief that says, like, I don't have to know what to do, but I'm just going to give you that space to say, like, I'm in this with you. Like, I'm gonna sit here and listen. I'm gonna hold your hand. I'm gonna give you a hug. I'm just gonna sit here in silence. That is so incredibly powerful. And so I think so much of that journey for me has become the foundation of what is the heart of Little Family Connection next door. Like, it's become the heart of who I try to be with people as I get to know them. And so I don't always do it right. I'm just gonna say that off the bat. Like, I know that that's the humanity in me, but I'm incredibly privileged. I'm privileged to be someone who has found people. And I believe that there is a huge calling in that to be people for others.
So we're gonna do a little activity. I'm gonna have Bob and Scott help me. I didn't tell them this. So guys in front, get back in here. It's an easy thing, I promise. In front of the sound booth, guys. No, this is really easy, I promise. In front of the sound booth, there's index cards and pens. Can you just make sure everybody's got one of each for us real quick? And here in just a minute, Holly's going to lead us in a couple of songs, the first of which is a song we haven't done here in quite a while. But we were talking about songs this morning, and this one just felt really appropriate for this message and for this conversation, and also for this anniversary. But it's a song that many of you know. It's called Reckless Love. And here's what I want to challenge you with, okay? If you want to get your guitar and get ready. Here's what I want to challenge you with is, like Holly just said, this idea of relationships, it's a duality of call, right? So we are called to let people in, but we are also called to be there for others. Because we need people, which means other people need people, which means we have to be people to other people when we've had people be people for us. How do you like that explanation? So here's what I want to challenge you to do. While Holly goes through and sings this song, and you just kind of let these words, for those of you that just want to sing along, for those of you that just want to use this for a few minutes to just pray and think and meditate, but here's what I'm going to challenge you with. Your card has two sides. On one side, I want you to write an area of your life that maybe you need to work on letting people in. Maybe this is an area I didn't want to talk about. I don't want to build relationships around. I don't want accountability in. Maybe it's just in general. Maybe I just have been hurt by people a lot, and I don't do friendships well, and I don't let people in well. Or maybe it's specific places in your life. Maybe it's specific relationships. Like, there's some family relationships that maybe I just need to be a little bit more aware of, and give some people a little bit more grace, and maybe let them in one step closer. And what does that look like to flex in some of those places? On the other side of your card, I want you to jot down some of the people who maybe you are adjacent to, you are in community with, you're in relationship with, people who you feel like, I want to intentionally work on being there for those people. I want to intentionally work in the next days and weeks and months to say, hey, can we go to lunch? Or can we go to coffee? Or can we go for a walk and just talk? Like, I want to get to know you better. How can I help you? How can I support you? How can I encourage you right now? So I want to challenge you to just spend a few minutes in prayer and worship and just kind of jot some of those things down. I'm not going to look at your cards. Nobody's going to see these being you, because I want you to take them home and put them somewhere that you can be reminded to let people in, but also be willing to let God work through you into the lives of other people. So, will you lead us in this song that means so much?
Spoke a word, you were singing over me. your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. I felt no worth, you paid it all. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God, There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Sing that again. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, God. Oh, God.
Collectively, I want to invite everyone in this space to take a deep breath. And I want to speak over that breath, that there is so much worth in that breath. There is so much worth in every single body that is taking up space and oxygen here. There's so much worth in every story, every name, every experience that has been lived, every dream, every vision. I want to take a second and hold space for diagnoses, for symptoms, for chronic illness, whether it be physical or mental, that is hard, that is heavy, that feels like there is no end in sight. And I want to lift up my friends in this space. God, I am so grateful for 10 years of the most beautiful adventures of my life. And I'm so grateful for every person that is in this space that I get to share space with. I pray that no person online or in person leaves today feeling like they are unlovable, like they are unwanted, like there is no hope for them. I hope instead that they feel like no matter how dark, no matter how deep those wounds go, that illness goes, that there is hope. And maybe that's found in simply this little body of people gathered together. I pray that every person leaves feeling loved. And that love is felt in a handshake or a hug, that it's felt in a smile, that's felt in someone taking a few seconds to listen to a story, that's felt in an authentic, how are you? That's felt in the Holy Spirit and their presence here in this room. Oh God. I pray for a movement, God, of your presence that just inspires people to radical kindness. That the love of Jesus would be felt on these streets, in our homes, in our schools, in our workplaces, and in our churches in a way that is real and raw and personal. Oh God, you know our names. May we not take that for granted. May we sit and just recognize the incredible magnitude of that. God, I thank you for how unique and special and beautiful everyone is here. You created them and you love them. And you are using this time up with us being together. In your name, amen. I'm going to invite you in this last song we're going to sing. It's called You Know My Name. You're welcome to sing along. You're welcome to just listen. I never, ever, ever, ever do this, friends, ever. Oh. I just want to take a second as I'm trying to desperately figure out what our next top 3 are. Thanks, babe. I just want to tell you all that I love you. For our top 3, well, first of all, any leftover food is yours. Please help yourself. The community of TCG, Kristen and I were talking about this. So much of what we do exists around food and exists around coffee. Like I think it's very biblical that Jesus did that with people. And so please help yourself to any more food before you leave. This Monday is Labor Day, so there are no coffee and questions. That's right, yeah, that's right. I read that right. So there's no coffee and questions in this building on Monday. So we'll be back the following week, and I believe we'll be next door in the Family Connection Center after that. So enjoy Labor Day in whatever capacity you're able to do that in. Do you want to talk about number 2, Christy? I'll jump to number 3, and then I'll let Christy talk about the second one. So on Sunday, September 18th, Rue, who hangs out with our teenagers and loves on them super, super awesomely, there is a youth group movie night. So if you know teenagers, if you have any teenagers in your world that just maybe are looking for something extra to do, some place to belong, we do our Valentines every Wednesday night at the Outreach Center. Talk to Rue about that, but they have a movie night going on that night. So they'll have barbecue, popcorn, snacks, and a movie. And if it rains, it'll be indoors. So is that here? That's here. So our TCG family is mourning and grieving this week. Our good friend Tommy Perkins went home to be with Jesus this week after a long battle with cancer. Got to talk to him several times over the last few weeks on the phone and video chats. And one of the very last things that he said to me was to tell everybody at TCG that he loves them and that he'll be watching over everybody. So we are going to honor Tommy's life and celebrate his memory Tuesday night here with a memorial at 6:30. So if you normally go to recovery group, we're going to do recovery group here in honor of Tommy. So we will be taking shuttle vans from dinner that night at Central Christian and just trying to make it easy for everybody that wants to be able to come and celebrate Tommy for a little bit. So if you have stories you want to share, you'll have a chance to do that night. If you've got pictures that you want us to share in the slideshow, feel free to text those to me or Facebook message those to me and I'll get those in there. And if you've got songs that make you think of Tommy, there's been a lot of interesting ones that have come in so far that we can use to play Tuesday night. I would love to hear your suggestions. So I hope you guys will join us and just know that Tommy loved you all very, very much. And he considered all of you one of his greatest gifts of friendship that he got to experience in the last couple of years. So thank you for loving him so well. All right. Love you guys.